As usual, it's always a good day when I see you. Madam President, I move acceptance of the Joint Committee's favorable report and passage of the bill as amended in the House.
And the question is on passage. Will you remark?
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I know you know as well as I that housing is one of the biggest concerns when we knock on doors and talk with our constituents. Every town hall, everything we hear is how housing is too scarce, how it's too expensive. And just last month, the CBIA CBIA Foundation for Economic Growth released a report on economic impact of Connecticut's housing shortage. And it stated that the housing crisis was a significant threat to economic growth and workforce stability. They also gave a list of things that we need to do in order to change this and in order to improve our housing stock, so therefore prices will go down. And there are so many sections of this bill that address what the CBIA recommended we do. So it's quite a big bill, Madam President. There are 41 sections. There are quite a few committees of cognizance. So I would love to start the debate, and I will refer to the committee chair as we get to the questions. I'm sure there'll be many, and this is a fantastic bill. I am so proud to be a part of it, to have worked so closely with Representative Felipe in the House. He knows housing much better than I. He showed me unbelievable grace, kindness, wisdom. It could not have been a better experience. And I am so proud of what we were able to accomplish. So thank you, Madam President. I'm sure after this debate, everybody will be very enthusiastic to vote for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you remark further? Good evening, Senator Sampson.
Good evening, Madam President. Delighted to speak with you once again today. I rise to ask a few questions on the bill that is before us, but before I do, I just want to make a brief statement. The bill that's before us is 42 sections long. It's 85 pages. It's very interesting that this is much different than the bill that actually passed out of committee, which I actually voted for, which was only one page, one section, 10 sentences, or 10 lines. I don't know how many sentences, probably fewer than that. And over the last several months, the majority has cobbled together a bill that encompasses bits and pieces that have come from both the Housing Committee, the Planning and Development Committee, and God knows where else, frankly. And some of this may have gotten a public hearing, but I will state from the outset that none of this received a proper public hearing before the Housing Committee the way it should have. Instead, we had a hearing on a bill that doesn't resemble this, that was only one paragraph on one page, effectively, and was nothing more than a study of housing and the needs of homeless persons. So today, what we have is this giant conglomerate omnibus bill. And anybody watching knows already that these giant conglomerate omnibus bills often contain some good parts, but they also most often, and notoriously so, contain some bad parts. So we're going to break down some of that tonight and discuss what's actually in this bill. It's a mix, as I said, of housing policy and planning and development, more zoning-related type policy. And in my view, it's a confusing web of conflicting ideas and policies that allegedly address the problem that was stated by the good chairman of housing availability and affordability, and also the subject of homelessness, which I'm going to get to probably right out of the gate as soon as I finish my opening statement. I think this bill, more than any other topic, touches on planning and zoning and affordable housing. It's interesting because that's a very debatable subject. If you listen to members of the majority, they'll tell you that there is no question that we have a housing shortage in Connecticut, and that we have an affordable housing shortage in particular. And that's a hard statement to argue with. Except you have to kind of step back and look at the problem, I think, from a more of a 30,000-foot view to understand what's actually happening that's created this problem, and that's the only way you're ever going to come up with any viable solutions. So the first thing I would suggest is that if there is a housing shortage, it's simply based on the fact that there's not enough affordable listings for housing available out there in the marketplace. But there's a lot of reasons for that. That doesn't necessarily mean there's not actually enough affordable housing available. It's just A, either not being advertised, or B, it's not being made available by the people that possess it. And I think both of those things are happening because of other forces. For there to be truly a housing shortage, what you would need is to have more people needing housing than housing units available. And I don't really know that that's the case, because in the state of Connecticut, our population is not growing. And I don't think the housing that we've had is disappearing. Whether it's disappearing from the list of available housing, that could be a different story altogether. We also have to ask ourselves, even if this is a problem, even if there is a shortage of available and affordable housing, what is the role of the state government in resolving that? And should the state government engage in policy making like we have here before us, which is a series of conflicting policies that seem to, on one hand, try and create more housing by using taxpayer dollars to invest in more housing being created, and also, on the other hand, to create more regulation in the way housing becomes available. And I think in some ways, those two things end up creating a conflict. In my view, the role of government should be extremely limited. We should be focused on providing opportunity for housing providers. We should be providing opportunity for people who want to invest in the industry of housing. And when that happens, housing magically appears. It's when you use the force of government to limit the availability of housing through regulation, through policies such as what occurred during the pandemic, where the governor effectively announced to the people of Connecticut that landlords can go without rental payments. No one can say that that didn't have some sort of impact on the housing providers in this state. They certainly would have looked at that and said, this is a hostile move. Each year that I come back to the legislature, there's more policy coming out of the Housing Committee and other committees threatening housing providers with more regulation. There are bills that would limit the amount of security deposit a landlord could ask for. There are bills that actually try and cap the amount of rental increases that occur. There are bills that will interfere with the private contracts between landlords and tenants in a way that is designed to put weight on the scale for tenants at the expense of the landlords. All of these things contribute to an environment that is less conducive to housing providers wanting to offer housing. All of these things that I'm mentioning, what the role of government is, whether there should be changes to planning and zoning, whether or not housing policy that's being debated at the Capitol is having an impact on what's available, all those things are debatable. But what is not debatable is that this bill utterly disrespects and overrides the concept of local control of zoning. This bill will lead to huge costs to taxpayers individually and to towns particularly. And in the end, the taxpayers will lose. So let's talk about the bill. The bill is entitled An Act Concerning Housing and the Needs of Homeless Persons. And my first question out of the gate, Madam President, for the good chairman, is to just ask how the title is related to the bill itself. And in particular, what does this bill have to do with the needs of homeless persons? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, there are two sections that deal with homelessness. One is the hostile architecture, and the other is about providing a pilot program for showers and washing machines. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate that the good chairman is so prepared, and she was ready with those two sections right out of the gate, and she's absolutely correct. There are two sections of the bill having to do with homelessness. The first one is Section 4, which is a program that's going to be created by the Department of Social Services where taxpayers are going to pay for buses that are equipped, I think, with showers and laundry facilities, and they're going to drive around and be made available to homeless people. I guess my question is, does that do anything to solve the fact that they're homeless? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. I think, I don't know. I've never not had a home. But I think by giving our homeless population some dignity to be able to go take a nice shower, I love my showers, and to have nice clean clothes, that then they might feel a little more empowered to maybe do the things they need to do to be able to help them in their pursuit to find a shelter if that is what they want. So I certainly think it's not going to hurt them. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. The purpose of my question is not to try and undermine the section of the bill that provides this service that's being created. It's simply to go to what this bill is actually about. Because I think the way it's been advertised, frankly, by the majority, the way it's been explained, is that this bill is about what the title says, an act concerning housing and the needs of homeless persons. And I just don't think that's actually true. And I thought we would start with the needs of homeless persons. So I think the needs of homeless persons might definitely fall under the fact that showers and laundry facilities that are on the go in the form of a taxpayer-funded bus might indeed not hurt. But I also don't think it goes anywhere to actually helping people cease to be homeless. Can I just ask about the other section that affects homeless people, Madam President? I think the gentlelady mentioned Section 8 of the bill.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Do you have a question through you?
Yeah, I think we need a question there. Sorry, I know he was citing a section.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President. I did ask a question. It was basically, can the good gentlelady explain to me about Section 8 of the bill?
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Marks.
Thank you, Madam President. There was a case in the Supreme Court. I think it was Case versus the town, something case in Oregon versus Johnson, and in which now municipalities are allowed to fine the unhoused if they're sleeping outside. And so we feel that they deserve to lie down, especially if there's no shelter beds, and we all know that there aren't any shelter beds. So all of this section does is that it stops any hostile architecture. One of the simplest ways in which municipalities build hostile architecture is, a bench is where it's a simple place to lie down, and so they put another railing in the middle so that a person can't lie down. So it's just to tell municipalities that that is not acceptable. And again, I think it's a very kind thing to do, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I brought this up because I thought it was really interesting and just something that might pique folks' attention so they might stay with us through this debate. The whole notion of quote-unquote hostile architecture. It's just the words struck me immediately. I mean, how can architecture be hostile? But after the gentlelady's explanation, I completely understand. The idea behind this is that architecture that is, might put it, pointy, could be considered hostile to somebody who wants to lie down. But even if this particular clause of this bill, Section 8, which I believe simply requires a municipality not to create any more hostile architecture, even if that's the case, how does that help improve the situation of homeless people? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam President, it gives the person who's unhoused somewhere to lie down.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Is that helping them cease to be homeless, or is that helping them to be more comfortable when they are homeless? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, no, it's just helping the homeless. It says the needs of homeless persons. So a place to lie down is a need of a homeless person, as is a shower, as is clean laundry. There are many other sections in this bill that is going to improve our housing stock. And so hopefully when simple supply and demand, when we have more housing units, then the prices of rent will come down, and that also will help the homeless community. Through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate that answer, and I am certainly in agreement with the gentlelady's comments that those two sections do, in fact, address the needs of the homeless community. My concern is that, when this bill was originally brought up in the Housing Committee way back when, it was put forward that the idea was to find ways to reduce the homeless population in the state of Connecticut. That the idea was to find a way to make housing more available and affordable so people were not homeless. And I wonder, actually, whether or not the reason why people are homeless is because of the cost of rent, or there are other factors involved. Through you, Madam President, can the good chairman tell me how many homeless people there are in the state of Connecticut? It doesn't have to be a specific number, but some approximate would be satisfactory. Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't know that answer.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Before I came out here, I looked it up, and I found the most commonly reported number to be about 3,500 in the state of Connecticut, which is not a good number by any stretch. The number 0 would be far better. But I also noticed that it was remarked in the several stories that I was reading that it's actually Connecticut is at the very, very bottom of all 50 states with the least homeless population per capita. I'm not saying that's we should win an award because we still have far too many homeless people in our state, but I'd say that that's a significant bit of information based on this conversation. Is it the goal of this bill, through you, Madam President, based on the title and the remarks that the good chairman just made, that the whole point of this bill is to address the needs of homeless persons and then also housing affordability for the 3,500 homeless people that are in the state? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam Chair, could he repeat the question? Could the good senator repeat the question, please?
Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'll just restate the question simply and say, what is the goal of the bill that is before us?
Thank you, Senator Marks.
The goal of the bill is that Connecticut is the most constrained housing market in the country. We need to build more housing. It affects our economy. It affects our families. And the purpose of this bill is improve our housing stock, lower the price of rents, and therefore help all of our constituents. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President. I understand that we have 85 pages and 46 sections of bill in front of us, but can the gentlelady explain to me in just a few simple terms how this bill proposes to solve that exact problem? How is this bill going to achieve improving the amount of housing stock and lowering rents? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm sure as we go through section by section, each program will show my colleagues how it will improve the housing supply and decrease rents. Through you.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President. I have several colleagues that I know want to speak on this bill, and at some length. And I had originally planned on coming out and doing just that, as the gentlelady mentioned, starting with Section 1. And I'm certainly willing to do that. We can go through this bill one section at a time. I can ask a lot of questions, and we can discuss the bill in that format. But I thought we might have just a conversation. This bill is being put forward as a solution to a problem that was stated by the chairman from the outset. We have a problem in the state. We have a housing affordability problem. We have a housing shortage problem. Rents are too high. And I'm simply asking, in simple terms, I understand that there's 46 sections. Each one of them does something different. But maybe I could just get a quick answer to say, well, this bill solves the problem of the lack of housing by doing X. And I'm curious what X is. So is that possible? Can I get an answer to the question what the goal of this bill is and how it's going to be achieved? Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam President, the goal of this bill is to increase our housing stock, therefore by decreasing prices, so therefore we will be able to have more people in houses and improve the economy of our state. Through you.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I think that the gentlelady already stated that to me, and maybe it's my fault for asking in my follow-up question again what the goal is, but what I'm really asking is how. How are we going to achieve that goal with the legislation that's before us? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam Chair, with all of the 42 different sections of this bill, we are going to improve our housing stock. We are going to lower the prices. We're going to have more housing for especially our early career and mid-career workers, and we're going to improve our economy.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate that, but it wasn't really much of an answer. The next stop is we're going to go 1 through 42. And we're going to talk about each section, and I'm going to ask the people in this room and everyone listening to see if at any point they hear anything that would actually achieve the stated goal. I would really like us to be able to skip that formality and just hear from the majority. How are you going to solve this problem? What's this bill do? What does this bill do that makes housing more available and more affordable and makes our economy better, which is a new thing that I just heard in the most recent answer? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam President, as I said in my initial introduction, that CBIA said with many of the things we are doing here in this bill, which is what they have recommended, that we will be improving our housing stock, decreasing rents, improving the economy. They said it's the biggest threat, our housing crisis is the biggest threat to economic growth here in Connecticut. I don't know that one section to the good senator is any better than another, so I'm not gonna, if you're asking me to talk about all 42 sections, I'm not. I'm just saying it's an excellent bill, which I'm incredibly proud of, and if you would like to go through each section, that's fine, or through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Sorry, Madam President. Thank you very much to the chairman for her answer. And I'm really not trying to be difficult. I am trying to save us some trouble so that we can actually have a simple conversation so we can discuss the merits of the policy that is before us. But I keep hearing the stated goal and that this is an excellent bill, et cetera, but so far I haven't heard substance. I heard things. I heard there's things that will solve the problem, but I don't know what those things are. So I guess we're going to start by going through the bill one section at a time. Through you, Madam President, can the gentlelady tell me what Section 1 of the bill does?
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam President, Section 1 is with housing authorities. So we're just asking housing authorities to put some things online on their webpage to let the renters and the residents in their communities know what the average housing price is, what's available, so to make it easier for all of them. I'm not going to go through each one unless the good senator, ranking member wants me to, but it really is just to increase the information on the Housing Authority websites through you.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Yeah, reading the bill, it says, it looks like that the Housing Authority shall submit a report to the Commissioner of Housing, and then they will now be required to post such report on the Housing Authority's internet website. And that report has got to include rental price levels by income group. It has to discuss the number of rental units owned and operated by the Housing Authority, the number of rental units at each respective rental price level, and it has to include the annual change in the rental price level. And I might be paraphrasing a little bit of that. But can the good chairman tell me how that is going to increase the amount of available housing, reduce the price of rents, or improve our economy through you?
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, it's going to give the residents and the consumers in the different communities more data, right? And we all know that data is very important. So therefore, it's going to help them to be able to be better consumers when they go out to rent their apartments. Through you.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Does this data lower the price of rents? Does this data allow some person to cease being homeless through you?
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam President, no.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you. Before I move on to Section 2 of the bill, I just want to ask, I noticed that this requirement on the Department of Housing and the housing authorities requires all of this data that we just mentioned about the price and number of rental units, et cetera. I'm curious, what is this data actually for? And the reason why I ask, because I know the good chairman said, well, this is going to provide this information to more people. And I can't disagree. Putting it on the internet is probably going to get it to more people, but I can't think of a single person who's ever mentioned to me they looked up rental data on the Department of Housing's website, even somebody who's a prospective renter. And I am in that industry. I'm a real estate agent. I deal with people buying and selling homes and looking for rental property and that sort of thing all the time. So I don't know that putting this data out there makes any real difference. How is this data going to be used? And how does it fit in with the rest of the bill, I guess, is the best question. Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam President, I didn't hear the end of his question. I'm sorry.
Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. It's not that important. Let's just move on to Section 2 of the bill. Can the gentlelady explain to me what Section 2 of the bill does?
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam President, I'm going to yield to the good senator from Planning and Development to answer Section 2 and 3.
Thank you, Senator Rahman. Do you accept the yield, sir?
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I accept the yield from my good senator, Senator Marks.
Thank you. Please proceed with the question, answering Senator Sampson's question.
My good senator, please can you kindly repeat the question again?
Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I was asking through you what Section 2 accomplishes in the bill. Through you.
Thank you, Senator Rahman.
Section 2. Section 2, as of right, housing. Through you, Madam President, as of right, middle housing.
I'm sorry?
Through you, Madam President.
Oh, okay.
As of right, middle housing.
Thank you, Senator Sampson. I guess that's your answer, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I am as surprised as you are. This section has several paragraphs. In fact, I think it goes on for a few pages. And as of right, middle housing is it's a noun. I'll give you that. But what does this section have to do with as of right, middle housing? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Rahman.
Thank you, Madam President. Thanks for good Senator question. Middle housing, as of right, also is grandfather in. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. What does it mean for it to be as of right? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Rahman.
As of right in commercial zoning areas, through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'm reading this section to say that it would allow for the as of right development of middle housing in what is a commercial zone, presumably in any town across Connecticut. Am I correct about that through you, Madam President?
Thank you, Senator Rahman.
Hi and bye. Until the next time. See you, Rachel.
Thank you, good Senator, for question. Through you, Madam President. Yes.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Could the good gentleman explain to me what middle housing is through you?
Thank you, Senator Rahman.
Middle housing, duplex, fourplex, through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. If I'm correct, that means that it is housing units that have between 2 and 8 units. Is that correct through you?
Thank you, Senator Rahman.
That's correct. Through you, Madam President.
And through you, Madam President, am I correct that it would apply in any town across the state of Connecticut, regardless of their current local zoning requirements and restrictions? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Rahman.
Thank you for question, my good Senator. Through you, Madam President, regardless what town, but still they have to meet all the health and public safety codes. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'll ask the same question of this good chairman that I asked of the last good chairman, which is, how does forcing a town to accommodate this type of construction in an area that they have not planned for or zoned for create more affordable housing and drive down rental rates? I understand that this would create the ability for someone to put this type of housing in that location, but I don't know that that ultimately means that they will. Is there anything that the good senator can do to elaborate just a little bit to convince me that this is good policy, that what we're attempting to do here will be successful, that the policy that we're enacting in Section 2 will result in more housing, more affordable housing, drive down rental rates, and even, as was promised, improve the economy through you?
Thank you, Senator Rahman.
Thank you for question, my good Senator. Through you, Madam President, as my good colleague, Senator Marks mentioned earlier, this bill designed to address 130,000 housing shortage in the state of Connecticut. And if this bill passed, would address this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate the good gentleman's comments, but the mere creation of a statute that requires a town to adopt a different zoning regulation contrary to what they have chosen for themselves doesn't automatically result in the housing being created. And I'm also curious to know where the number of 100,000 units or individuals, what is that shortage and where's that data from? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Rahman.
Through you, Madam President, thank you for, my good senator asking the question. This question, last 3 years or 5 years, I'm here, this is my second term. Over and over and over, I heard and I know we are dealing with our housing shortage. Our youth, our seniors, is not affordable housing we are talking about. We are talking about that, creating more housing. And I received a phone call a few days ago from Glastonbury, one of my constituents. She sold her home and she wanted downside, tried to find the 2-bedroom apartment. She couldn't find the 2-bedroom apartment. She has money but can't find the apartment in Glastonbury she desired to live. So through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'm doing my best to work through this bill respectfully and try and piece together from what I've got in front of me in the written word and the commentary and responses from my colleagues here. But when we repeat things in this chamber, I think it's important that we back up our facts. And when someone says there's a housing shortage, the housing shortage is 100,000, and I ask whether that's units or people and where did the data come from, I think it's important to be ready with that information. I don't doubt my good colleague believes that information is accurate, but I've never seen that data in any sort of official form. And if it is true, I would like to question the veracity of that data and where it comes from and whether or not the information is actually being given to us in a way that's useful. Because as I said from the outset, I don't believe that the actual number of housing units has declined. It doesn't make sense to say that these housing units just vanished from existence. And the population of the state, I do not believe, has grown substantially. I do believe a lot of other things have happened. I believe that we've had rampant inflation in our economy that's affected the cost of everything. I'm a realtor, as I mentioned. I was just recently involved in a real estate transaction for a home that's being sold in the $800,000 to $900,000 range, and I can remember this same exact home just a few years ago, before the pandemic, probably would have been in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. But I also know that when I go to Walmart and I fill up my grocery cart, it used to cost $60, and now it's $250. It drives me crazy, just like everybody else who's listening. I think everyone knows that a great many things cost a lot more today than they did years ago. And that is being part of our day-to-day affects everything else. You know, if the cost of goods and services rise for any individual and they have got to pass those costs on to others that they do business with, if a landlord is going to have to pay more taxes, or I'm aware that the price to put a roof on a house, for example, probably has doubled or even tripled in the last 10 years. That's something that has got to be passed on to a consumer, correct? So I'm trying to get to the bottom of this housing crisis. This bill is being brought to us today. It's been hyped up for the last several months. This is the solution to our problems. Can the good gentleman, through you, Madam President, say that this is the solution to our problems? When this policy passes, are we going to solve the shortage of housing and rental prices is going to go down, and when? Through you.
Senator Rahman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, my good senator, asking that question. Thank you. I'm not a realtor. I don't know the housing prices. I have to sell the house. and housing price is going to go down. What I do know, we have the housing shortage. This is why rent is up. And only way will, everything would affordable if we can create more housing, which is 130,000 house, unit shortage. I know you didn't see the data. We had a multiple. I joined, attended a number of housing seminar and national housing seminar, and also they came in Connecticut, legislative building 2 years ago. So everyone begging and fighting to create more housing. Price, I'm not sure, is going to go down. Tell the Donald Trump to, drop the rate. And sending them more money in Connecticut, building more housing. This is how price is going to go down and rent going to go down. Through you, Mr. President.
Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I appreciate the gentleman's answer. And again, I appreciate very much his passion and his sincerity. I believe everything that he says comes from the heart. I'm just looking for answers, like a lot of our constituents are. That's what we do here. We are elected by the people back home. They send us here. They have questions. They have concerns. The good chairman of the Housing Committee, she started with an impassioned speech about how she wanted to take care of her constituents, and I don't doubt that in the least. And so do I. I want to see the people that live in our state prosper. I want to see them excel. I want them to be better off than anybody else anywhere in the country or in the world. That's what I want. And I believe that their best bet for that really is the decisions that they make individually. But I do recognize that the policies that are made in the state government can have an impact on that. Now, maybe different than some of my friends in the majority, I believe that generally speaking, government, when it does play a role in those decisions, actually makes it worse, makes it more difficult for people to succeed and prosper. And that's why I'm skeptical, frankly, when I have a bill that's put in front of me that has been hyped up and advertised and pushed in the media with lots of advocates sending out blast emails to people as if this is the panacea, this is the solution, this is what is going to solve our housing crisis once and for all. And forgive me for being skeptical. I want to hear it. That's why I pressed the good chairman of the Housing Committee a couple times. How? How? Tell me how. You got 46 sections. I'm reading them individually. It's a bunch of bits of pieces of changed planning and zoning here, changing housing rule there. You should be able to say, well, our plan is, in a few sentences, so that any person could say, yeah, I can see how this could actually change things. I'm not seeing it. And I'm begging of my colleagues in the majority for once to make an argument in favor of their bill. So often we come to this chamber and we debate these bills, and members of the minority like myself, we stand up and we challenge the facts of the bill over and over again. But the one thing I rarely see is someone in the majority get up and defend the bill and say, this is a good bill because it's going to do this, and to respond to every question. So the question's pretty direct. Will this solve the housing shortage that the good chairman speaks of, and when? Through you.
Senator Rahman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, Mr. President.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, today, board yes this bill and pass this bill. This is a first step to not 130,000 unit gonna solve the problem, but it's the first step improving housing crisis, reduce housing price. I don't know when I can explain. When I moved here first, 2-bedroom was $800 I rent. 2-bedroom now, $3,000 in Glastonbury. Yes, it changed from $800 to $3,000, $3,200. But it's the most change increase last 4 or 5 years, not like 30 years. Through you, Mr. President.
Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I appreciate that response. And I really like the fact that we're getting somewhere now. We're actually having a conversation. It's a step in the right direction. So based on that response, which I want to address in a moment, is it the opinion of the good chairman that we have in a moment? It's a step in the right direction. So based on that response, which I want to address in a moment, is it the opinion of the good chairman that we have a housing shortage problem or a housing price problem? Because I asked about both. You began by saying that we were short 100,000 units, but when I asked if we were going to solve that, you seemed to focus just on the fact that the price is a problem. And I know as well as anyone that basic market principles say that when you have a shortage, that creates scarcity. Scarcity drives up prices. I get that. That also should mean, by the way, that other people will jump in to solve that scarcity. That's what happens in an actual marketplace that is not interfered with by government. But is it true that we actually have a housing shortage, or is it just that the price is high? Through you.
Senator Rahman.
Thank you, my good Senator, that question. Through you, Mr. President. Yes, housing shortage and the price. Why is the price so high? Because we have the housing shortage, and also last couple of months, 10% went up because what happened in Canada, all the lumber, everything sale is tariffs added, so everything add up. Everything add up, including this is why the housing. If you have the housing shortage, 10 people apply for rent, two bedroom apartment, 10 people looking for, but available for one person. So it's 2 bedroom, $800 to now $3,000, but desperately 10 people looking 2 bedroom, but you have available 2 bedroom apartment. So the person don't care, they pay more than they should. Through you, Mr. President.
Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I appreciate my colleague and his desire to add a few additional responses and comments to the answers to my questions, and each one of them has merit and is debatable. We should have a conversation about tariffs. Frankly, I don't know what tariffs that have to do with other countries have to do with already existing homes in the state of Connecticut. Certainly, they may impact the construction of homes, but I don't know to the degree that's immediately impacting our state. Through you, Mr. President, does the good gentleman have any idea how many available rentals there might be in the state of Connecticut? Through you.
Senator Rahman.
Thank you, my good senator, asking that question. I just want to yield my time to my good senator, Senator Marks, or answer the question. Thank you.
Senator Marks.
Through you, Mr. President, I did look that up today to the good senator. I don't know on which piece of paper I wrote it down, so I can't answer that directly. I can answer one of the previous questions you asked about how do we know. Would you like me to do that?
Not really.
Okay. I don't know, Mr. President, through you.
Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I will certainly, obviously, at some point, put the microphone down and the gentlelady can talk about whatever she likes. And I'm certainly willing to hear you opine in answer to my questions, but I'm trying to stay focused. This line of questioning was supposed to take about 4 minutes to start with out of my remarks, because we're still working on the basic premise of the bill and the stated goal. And frankly, I haven't heard yet how this bill is going to solve this problem. I heard a very confident senator a moment ago state that it will. He wasn't sure exactly when. Maybe you know when. But I'll just suggest to the folks in the room and anyone listening that I just looked it up on Zillow, and right now there are 9,748 rental units available in the state of Connecticut. Now, I don't know what the average is on any given day, but that doesn't sound like a shortage to me, because they have little pinpoints all over this state. So I can understand that we're having a conversation about a few different things. We're having a conversation about whether there's a housing shortage. We're having a question about if rents are too high. Who's that guy who's say the rent's too damn high? Well, I agree. But so is everything. Everything's too damn high. Anywhere you go today to anything, even fast food. I can't even believe how much it costs to go to like McDonald's now and get a quarter pounder with cheese meal. It's like $15 or something. I don't mean to make light of the situation. This is an unbelievably important issue. And that's why I don't want to play games with our constituents. I want people to understand that when we're debating and voting on policy, there are consequences to that policy. It is super important what we do here. And in my view, the policies that have been passed in this legislature over the course of time, but certainly just since I've been here since 2011, in my view, have harmed our state. They've made our state less safe. I don't want to go off on another tangent, but I think that there's policy affecting crime and our criminal justice system that have made us less safe. There are skyrocketing utility rates, something that is the #1 issue for most of the people in my district that they're contacting me about daily, something I mention every time I get up in this chamber, no matter what the bill is, at the risk of being scolded. But I do it because I want to point out, after today, there are only 3 days left in this legislative session, and I'm still wondering whether we're actually going to take action on addressing people's electric rates. I'm ready to go right now. We could stop this bill and take up a bill about electric rates. Nothing would make me happier. But this policy that's in front of us, I would like an answer. How does this policy improve the problem as stated? How is this policy going to reduce rents, get rid of the supposed housing shortage? In my view, since there's 10,000 rentals, maybe that problem's been solved since we've been standing here talking. But that doesn't make anyone feel better because no one can afford the rents that are out there. But the fact of the matter is, those landlords are still offering those rents for those prices. And the reason why they are is because they're actually able to command those rents. And if there is a shortage, by implication, that means that there's not a lot of vacancies. So if the situation is that there's only so much housing in the state of Connecticut, it's extremely high priced, but there's not enough vacancies, that means that there's a lot of people paying a lot of money for rent in the state. And I agree, that's going to leave some people out. But that's the case with anything. Like, I want a Ferrari. Can't afford one, so I'm left out. Certainly a Ferrari is not housing. But we have to live within our means. And that means that we've got to focus on ways to generate income as individuals to be able to survive, purchase housing, transportation, and we've got to do that. This legislature has impact on all of the policies that affect all those things. Our policies that are passed that impact housing providers affect the cost of housing. Our policies that we pass that affect labor policy or put regulations on businesses have an impact on those businesses and the amount of jobs that are available, an amount of high-paying jobs that are available. Is it possible that if we had policies that didn't chase away businesses from our state by imposing ridiculous labor policy on them, collective bargaining under the dome, for example, isn't it possible that that would mean that there'd be more well-paying jobs so that people could afford these higher rents? I'm not trying to justify the higher rents. I'm trying to say that we live in a marketplace, and everything revolves around everything else. It just does. And when there are people that are making good incomes and can afford higher rents, and they want to live in a certain area, and they're competing for rents, well, the housing provider's naturally going to try and maximize their ability to get rent. I think what's going on here is that there's a lot more smoke than there is fire with this bill. Because if there was an actual plan, Senator Sampson, the way this is going to work is X, Y, Z. We're going to do this, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And any person can see plainly that making those changes is going to result in lower rents and a better economy. I'm waiting. Let's talk more about Section 3 of the bill. This section, I think, has to do with development applications that are being presented, I think, to local zoning officers. Through you, Mr. President, I think this probably could go to either one of my chairmen, so I'll let it be a jump ball. What does Section 3 do to improve the situation, lower rents, make us have a better economy, solve the housing shortage? Through you.
Senator Rahman.
Through you, Mr.
Apologies. Sorry, Senator. Senator Marks.
Thank you, Mr. President. So Section 3 is about parking requirements. In the CBIA study, they said that one of the biggest problems, and it's also environmental, right? Because we have lots of parking lots out there that are half full, and if you drive around, you often see them. And that we need to start being creative and look at the parking minimums that we have in our commercial and residential construction. But this just deals with residential construction. And for housing units that are less than 24 units, there is no parking. There is no parking mandate, and for those that are above 24, the developer must pay for a study, a parking study, then they will go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Planning and Zoning Commission cannot increase that by any more than 110%. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate the gentlelady's answer. I'm just going to follow up with repeating my question, which is, how does that end up improving the situation, reducing the cost of rents, improving our economy, solving the housing shortage? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam President, it does increase the number of housing units that we will be able to build because we won't be wasting land for parking lots. We'll be able to put some housing units on those parking lots.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate the passion with which the gentlelady is willing to state that the state of Connecticut intends to tell local municipal governments, their planning and zoning, their local elected officials, how they're going to lay out their town. I want to understand how the state of Connecticut dictating to any town across the state, town I'm from, Wolcott, or Senator Summers' town, Mystic, how does telling towns that they are going to have to change their zoning, particularly to accommodate far more units in an area with less parking than they would have before, how does that make our economy better, solve the housing shortage, and what was the other thing? Lower rents? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Thank you, Madam President. To the good senator, so it's going to allow more development. I've been to a lot of the real estate town halls or the real estate forums while we're running for elections, and I've heard Senator Summers talk about how we have to get rid of a lot of the red tape. And this was in the CBIA report. It is in so many reports about how to increase housing. So many housing units are not built because the developers can't conform to the 1.5 parking spaces per unit. So by getting rid of the less 24 units or less, there's no parking minimum. It's going to increase the development. The more houses, economics 101, the more supply we have out there, the demand goes down and the cost goes down. I will say people are going to say, well, on my nice streets, people don't park on the streets. No developer is going to build development that there isn't some kind of available parking around that development, because nobody's going to then go rent or buy the property. So I'm sure there's going to be excuses, but this is what the industry is saying we need to do in order to increase construction. We have a housing crisis not just in Connecticut, but throughout the entire country, throughout the world, actually. And so it's going to work, and I do get excited about it, because I think this bill has some really excellent things that we can do to increase our housing stock. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I, again, appreciate the sincerity of my colleague and her confidence. I'm not so confident. I fear that, and I'm going to spend a little time here, even though there's a lot more sections to talk about, but I'm going to spend a little time here because this section is very much like a lot of the other ones. So we can kind of kill a number of birds with one stone, I think, which is to say, is it right for the state to start to dictate to towns things that they've already long established? And they elect people locally close to home to decide. We would be up here making a decision for them, probably on a party line today, to dictate to towns, including towns like mine, where I'm not voting for this, and the people in my district didn't vote for this, that they would have to change the rules of how they set up the town. What I would be concerned about is that I believe that towns set up their zoning in a certain way, and as a result of that, their towns are run in a certain way and become desirable. I think the town of Mystic, Senator Summers' town, is a beautiful community, for one. I think it's a great place. People love to go there and walk around in the downtown and check things out and so forth. And I believe that their local zoning officials, and I don't know any of them, but I've got to believe that what's on their mind when they make decisions is to try and make sure that the town of Mystic remains a certain way so that it is desirable to visit, it's desirable to live. Other communities might be trying to be more desirable to get people to move into their business districts. But we leave it up to those towns on purpose because they understand what's going on there. They understand how much traffic there is. They understand whether or not they have enough wastewater ability. They understand where the wetlands are. They understand all of that. And they understand the character of their town. And you have to remember that the people I'm talking about are a natural extension of the town itself, because they are the people that are elected by the people that live in the town. And presumably they're chosen because they're going to carry on the vision for the town that they all live in. I don't know what the majority party here at the state capitol thinks they have to say about Senator Summers' town or my town. That's my concern. That's the reason why I'm standing here. I trust my people back home to make those decisions. And I'm very wary of the kind of decisions that are in here, particularly in this section, because if you start to make changes like this, maybe the town of Mystic doesn't look like it did before. Maybe the town of Wolcott doesn't look like it did before. Maybe it's not the same town anymore. Maybe it's not as desirable and people don't want to go there. And I can see how the good chairman might say that might drive down prices. Because it might. You end up damaging these towns by making them less desirable. Oh yeah, that'll drive down prices. I hope that's not the goal, but I think that's actually part of the potential result of this bill, is that when you start central planning what are 169 separate microcosms, each one of them different in their own special way, and you start to dictate to them that they've got to adopt this blanket set of policies that allows things that they never would have adopted before because it would have messed with the character of that town. We've gone too far. And the only thing that can result from that, in my view, is damaging those towns, damaging the character of those towns, upsetting the nature of those communities, and frankly, pissing off the people that live there. For me, like, lesson number one in politics is don't piss off the people that elected you. But I'm afraid that's what this bill will ultimately do. And I really wish more people were paying attention in our society to the policies that are being passed in the state capitol. I really do. I think if people understood the bills that we were passing better and understood what was really going on and how their lives are being impacted by the decisions of 36 people in this room and 151 people downstairs, they might send a different 187 people to the Capitol. There's a lot more to say about this bill. Madam President, there are, as I mentioned, 42 sections in this bill. There could be conversation about each one of them that goes on for a serious length of time because they each deserve it. There are some things that stand out in this bill that are shocking. I was reading this story, written by Megan Portfolio of the Yankee Institute, entitled Sweetheart Deal for Unions Buried in Housing Omnibus Bill. And it talks about Section 31. Through you, Madam President, to the good chairman of the Housing Committee, how do you react to this characterization in this article that this is like a gift to the unions? We're going to effectively set up a system that's taxpayer funded to allow people to invest in real estate using other taxpayers' dollars. How is that fair to the people that pay taxes in this state? Through you.
Thank you. Senator Marks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a very important part of this bill. What it does is the AFL retirement funds, which building trades is part of them. What's going to happen is developers are going, they're going to develop affordable housing, and instead of going to the bank, they'll go to the union and borrow money from the union, which they'll be able to get at 4 or 5%, which is much less than they'll be able to get from the bank. As with all affordable housing in New London, the great city of New London, where I'm from, we have built a lot of housing, and a lot of it does get the CIF bonding. So the housing will be built with bonding from the state, with money from the unions. It will be built with prevailing wage. It will be built with union workforce, which then they get treated the right way. Some of the biggest corruption of our workforce is the non-union construction workers. And then it has to stay affordable for 40 years. So it's happened in many other states. In Massachusetts, the Union Retirement Fund has built over 90 building projects there. And so I'm so glad that when this bill passes, that we're going to join the ranks of those, and we're going to be able to get some good union-built housing in Connecticut. Through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Before I follow up with another question, I just want to give the good chairman an opportunity to maybe reframe her comment. I believe she said that non-union construction is corrupt. And I would just like to give her the opportunity to correct that statement or clarify it in a way that doesn't sound like what I heard. Through you.
Thank you. Senator Marks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the good senator. Corrupt might be a strong word, but I know that often that when they're working on construction sites, that they're not paying for workers' compensation, that they're not paying the same wages that union workers would get. They don't have the same safety, same safety standards. A lot of corners are cut, and I believe that union work is safer and a better wage. And so I really do support this section of the bill. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'll let that statement stand on its own, and I'll just continue and make it very clear what this section of the bill does, which is it allows these unions to invest in these, what I would consider a real estate investment trust, but they're getting matching funds from the state. That's taxpayer money. I don't know of anyone else who gets to go and invest in real estate and the state matches their funds. Is that accurate to say that it's a 50-50 match through you, Madam President?
Thank you, Senator Marks.
No, Madam President, through you.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President. Then what is the percentage of state dollars versus the actual union investment through you?
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam President, each contract that the developer, there's going to be a developer. It's not being built. The union members are the construction workers. They're the builders. There's going to be a developer that makes an agreement with the unions and with the states. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that answer, but I didn't hear a percentage through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, it depends on each project, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Well, thank you once again, Madam President. Can you, the good chairman, tell me who's deciding how much taxpayer money is going to be gifted for these real estate investments through you?
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam President, it'll be, I believe, between the DOH and the developer.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
All right, now hold on one second. So, Madam President, what I'm hearing, and I'll just point out that in the House debate, it was very clearly stated by your House chairman that it was a 50-50 match. In fact, in this article, they point out Representative Scott saying it's a 50% off coupon for the politically connected unions to play landlord while taxpayers foot the bill and walk away empty-handed. I commend him on his creative use of words and the accuracy for what I'm hearing. But what I'm hearing now is it's not necessarily 50-50. It's up to the Commissioner of the Department of Housing. So where is the Commissioner of the Department of Housing being empowered to give away taxpayer money so someone can invest in real estate? And how do I get on that deal? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam President, we all say things, it's a big bill, that we might not know every section of the bill as well as another section, so that I'm very happy that the good senator has asked me some of these questions for the record. Each development project will be different. The state will not always be part of it. It is between the developer and the union pension funds. Affordable housing gets money from the state at times. It's a bank. They're using the union pension funds as a bank with a lower interest rate. So you can do it if you want to. You absolutely can do it. Call the unions if you want to do a development, and they'll give you a better interest rate than if you were to go to a bank. And if you want to use union labor and apprentice, you have to have the apprenticeship too. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I have just one question with regard to this section, which is, how does this section lower rents, improve our economy, and cure the housing shortage?
Thank you, Senator Marks.
Through you, Madam President, because it's going to allow more housing to be built. I just said in Massachusetts, over 90 projects have been built. Any developer is going to go and use the union. They can't wait to do this because it's a lower interest rate. They know they're getting excellent tradespeople to do the work. And it's such basic supply and demand. When we build more, then the prices are going to come down, just like it's starting to happen in Austin, Texas. Rent prices are finally starting to come down because of all of the construction. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I think what's missing here is some entry-level economic education, which is you cannot take money from taxpayers, further burdening them so that they have less money to spend on rent and housing and trips to Walmart. You can't take more from them and then say you're going to use that money to build more housing, which frankly, by the way, one of the main things that I hope my colleagues get into is when you talk about affordable housing, what does it mean? How much is it going to cost? Because in my view, any of the affordable housing, quote unquote, that I've seen anywhere advertised in this whole state is not affordable. I heard Senator Rahman talk about an $800 two-bedroom in Glastonbury. I can guarantee you that there's not going to be $800 two-bedroom apartments created because of this bill. I can guarantee that. As I said, 42 sections. I want to touch on 2 of them very quickly, and then I'm going to turn it over to Senator Gordon because he's chomping at the bit. He wants to talk on this bill so bad. I can see him over there. Section 16, I believe it is. No, Section 18. And forgive me, because this is a long bill, I've got to flip through the pages to get there. Section 18 has to do with something called a revenue management device. Okay? And what this section does, according to the summary, is it makes it a violation of the Connecticut Antitrust Act to use a revenue management device to set rental rates or occupancy levels. Can I ask what this means through you, Madam President? What is a revenue management device, and why is the state of Connecticut so concerned about it that they're willing to ban it and set an unbelievably unprecedented civil penalty of up to $100,000 for an individual, by the way, and up to $1 million for a business? Through you.
Thank you. Senator Marks.
Madam President, if we could just stand at ease while we get the good chair of the Judiciary Committee.
Yes, we can stand at ease and have you heard the question that was posed?
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I didn't hear the question, so I'd ask the good senator to repeat it, and I will make an attempt to respond.
Yes, thank you very much. Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Good to see the chairman here of our esteemed Judiciary Committee. I'm inquiring about Section 18, which makes it a violation of the Connecticut Antitrust Act to use what's referred to in the bill as a revenue management device to set rental rates or occupancy levels. And it has the most whopping penalty. And it says that this could be, a violator could be charged a civil penalty of up to $100,000. I can't think of a single crime that has anything even remotely approaching $100,000. And that's for an individual, and up to $1 million for a business. And in fact, I think this is part of the fiscal note of this bill, is that that's how we're going to fund this, by fining people these inordinate numbers. Through you.
Thank you, Senator Winfield.
Thank you, Madam President. And maybe I wasn't listening, but I don't know what the, it was pointed out what the fines are, but I don't know what the question was, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. I'm just asking about this section. I need some clarification. I don't know what a revenue management device is, and I don't know what would cause such a penalty. I mean, does a revenue management device end up with people maimed or murdered? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Winfield.
Madam President, my understanding, and again, sorry, I'm a little behind here. This is not a bill that I had in my committee directly, but my understanding is that the revenue management device is software that deals with data and determines the data and determines and gives advice through the software to the landlord on how a unit should remain vacant or whether it should be rented and things of that nature through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. So if I'm understanding this correctly, the proponents of this bill want to pass a law tucked into this 42 section 85-page bill, something that would make it a civil penalty, and I'll get to some other questions about that in a second, if a landlord uses some software to determine whether or not they should rent out their property and for how much. And if they do that, apparently diabolical thing, they can get fined up to $100,000 as a person and up to $1 million if they're a company, which presumably is any small landlord that calls themselves an LLC. Through you.
Thank you, Senator Winfield.
Madam President, I think what the section is trying to get at is using these devices in such a way to do what we might colloquially talk about as fixing prices through you, Madam President. So in terms of whether the price itself is, the penalty itself is too high, I think that's a judgment call, but as the bill has come before us, I think that is what has been determined through the process to be necessary to hopefully cause that behavior not to persist. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I have to admit I'm not understanding the good senator when he mentions the term price fixing. I hear this term sometimes, but it's generally, in my view, when the government sets a cap on a price for something. Like we have legislation in this state that prohibits someone from charging extra in the case of a storm for a storm shovel or something like that. And I understand that there was a bill in the House of Representatives just a few days ago that would have actually affected and fixed the price of rents for mobile homes. That's price fixing. Am I getting it wrong, or is it okay for the state to engage in price fixing, but it's not okay for someone who is a housing provider to use a software aid to help them determine the price they should charge for a rental? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Winfield.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I don't think it's just the use of a software aid. I think it's that the software aid, as it is under this section, part of the problem is that the information that it's using is the type of information that is what they would call non-public competitor data to help do this. So I don't think it's just a mere use of software. We use software for all kinds of things. You and I use software. All of us use software. It's the manner in which the software is being used to manipulate the market. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President. And far be it from me to disagree with the senator. I am reading the words in the section on lines 1598, that's right, 1,598 through 1,600, subsection B of section 18, I'm sorry, under subsection 2, under section 18. It says, it shall be an unlawful practice in violation of Chapter 624 of the General Statutes for any person to use a revenue management device to set rental rates or occupancy levels for residential dwelling units. So I think it does mean they have to be using the residential or revenue management device, although the gentleman may be right that it has to be used in a certain way. But to use software to set rental rates or occupancy levels, I don't think that is something that sounds criminal. Can I be enlightened to know why that should be a violation in our state statutes? Through you?
Thank you, Senator Winfield.
Through you, Madam President, again, lines 1598 through 1600 are B of under 2, which deals with the non-public competitor data. And as I said, the manner in which this happens, and so it's that non-public competitor data that creates the problem that those lines deal with, through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I won't trouble the good senator with any more questions. I just want to speak here for a minute. This section of this bill is extremely indicative of what's going on in our state government. It's very concerning to me. This is a section of this bill which shows that the proponents have no concept of economics whatsoever. It doesn't matter how much someone wants to rent something for or how much they want to sell it for. They don't have the power to do that. They ultimately get the choice whether to accept terms, but the price of things is set by the market. If I want to sell this can of Canada Dry, few drops left, for $500, I don't think anybody's going to give me that money unless they're a big fan, maybe. Right? And if I use some software to figure out whether or not this can is worth 10 cents or $100, and the software tells me, no, Rob, we did the research, we checked on all the other mostly empty cans of Canada Dry, and guess what? They all go for the same 10 cents because that's the return deposit. I'm not breaking the law. I'm just looking for some guidance based on what's going on in the market. And I understand this is not a criminal statute, but it's actually worse in my view. A criminal statute would require someone to be charged with a crime, and then they would have to be tried in a court of law. They would have to be prosecuted. Evidence would have to meet a high burden. You'd have the opportunity to defend yourself before you were ever punished. Under this, it looks like the state of Connecticut is going to empower some entity, I don't know if it's the Department of Housing, yeah, it looks like the Department of Housing, that ultimately is going to be able to just, as a bureaucracy, look at me or anyone else that's using software to help us guide ourselves and how much we should charge for rent, and say that you have done something wrong and can be fined a crazy amount. You could spend as much time as you want looking through our criminal statutes at the fines we have for anything. I don't know of anything that has a fine of $100,000, let alone $1 million. And I'm talking about violent crimes where people are hurt, maimed, murdered. Somebody using some computer software to help guide them what rents are? Having a computer program does not allow you to charge $3,000 for a 2-bedroom in Glastonbury instead of $800. The market allows that to happen. And the market is created by the environment. The number of buyers, renters, the number of available units, the number of people looking, the number of jobs that are available in the community, how much those jobs pay, how far away the good jobs are, what's the transportation like. These are all things that affect how much things cost in our society. Other things affect us too, like the fact that nationally, in the federal government, 3-4 years ago, they went on a spending spree like you wouldn't believe. And then they went on a printing money spree like no one has ever witnessed before. They printed so many extra dollar bills that it devalued our currency. So a $5 bill is like a $2 bill now. So it's not surprising that an $800 rent a few years ago is now twice that. But so is everything else, with few exceptions. And I know it's terrible. I'm just as sympathetic to everyone else in this circle about the fact that there are people out there that are not earning enough money to be able to afford the rent that they want. I get it. I want to fix it too. But the solution is not more bureaucracy, more rules, more nonsense, more bills with 42 sections where no one can actually put together a few sentences to explain how it's going to solve the problem, because it won't. I got one more section I want to talk about. This should illustrate things just fine for everybody. Through you, Madam President, can I ask what Section 33 of this bill does? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marks, or Senator Gaston.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President. Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, this piece of legislation that you see that's inculcated in this bill was there as a result of so many folks across the state of Connecticut in various towns, from the city of Bridgeport, town of Stratford, as well as Trumbull and other parts of the state, had reached out in reference to individuals who had been stuck in elevators, especially in larger facilities. And this bill essentially is going to ensure that each elevator or escalator shall be thoroughly inspected by a department elevator inspector at least one each 18 months, except elevators located in private residences shall be inspected upon the request of the owner, and more frequent inspections of any elevator or escalator shall be made if the condition thereof indicates that additional inspections are necessary or desirable. Each elevator at a private-owned multifamily housing project shall be thoroughly inspected by a department elevator inspector at least once each 12 months. For each such inspection, the department elevator inspector shall submit a report to the state building inspector that describes the status of each elevator at such housing project. And also, in Section 33, it results in a cost of $205,000 to the Department of Administrative Services in fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27 for salary expenses, and an $83,456 for fiscal year 26 and 27 to the state comptroller for fringe benefits to hire 2 elevator inspectors to inspect each elevator in privately owned multifamily projects in the state every 12 months. The bill also requires privately owned multifamily housing projects to have their elevators inspected at least once every 12 months by the Department of Administrative Services elevator inspector, and following each inspection, the inspector must submit a report to the state building inspector that describes the status of each elevator on the premises, and 2, an ongoing elevator repair, including how long any elevator is expected to remain inoperable. Under existing law, elevators and escalators must be inspected at least every 18 months, and elevators in private residences must also be inspected at the owner's request. This is basically making that a time period upon which that inspection need to happen shorter. So instead of 18 months, 12 months. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate the lengthy response that I got from yet another senator. I'm going to shoot for the whole 25 members of the majority. Maybe we can get a response from each one of them. But I think what the gentleman said, if I'm paraphrasing correctly, and he can confirm this for me, is that what we're doing is we're changing the requirement from having to have elevators in 15-story multi-unit residential buildings inspected every 12 months instead of every 18 months. And we're going to hire 2 people, and we're going to pay them some amount of money that ends up being a couple $100,000 out of the taxpayer's pocket. Am I correct about that through you?
Thank you, Senator Gaston.
Correct, and I think that if you look at that number in the grand scheme of things, and when you weigh that up against public safety in our state, that's peanuts.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
And thank you very much, Madam President. I don't have any more questions for the good senator. I don't know that I consider a couple $100,000 peanuts, but I do understand that it is a very small percentage of our entire state expenditures. I guess I would only ask one more rhetorical question, and that is, how on earth does this solve the housing shortage? How does this lower rents? How does this improve the economy? And the good senator can answer, or the good chairman of the Housing Committee can answer, but I've been after that answer for each section we've asked about. This is a section that doesn't do anything except for change how often elevators are inspected. That's what's in this bill. The bill that's going to save us. The bill that's going to solve these problems. That's the big solution. I found it. Am I missing anything through you, Madam President? Does this solve the housing shortage? Does this lower rents? Does this improve the economy through you?
Thank you, Senator Gaston.
Thank you, Madam President. What I will say to that is when people are living in facilities where they feel that the elevators in those facilities are working properly, people want to continue to stay in those units because let me just say this anecdotally, I've had conversations with so many people, especially those in my district, who have been on these elevators. These folks have disabilities. Some of those folks could not even get to the doctors, and one man died as a result of the elevator outage in his facility because he could not get down. I think it saved lives. I also think that it does contribute to the economy because if people are disabled doesn't mean that they're unable to work, and this man was not able to even go to work as a result. Therefore, he could not contribute back to the society in the way in which he wanted to do. And so to answer your question briefly, I think that that example that I just gave you illustrates what you're asking.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Again, I appreciate the very thoughtful and eloquent words by my colleague. But at the end of the day, this section doesn't do much. It's not like it's miraculously fixing the elevators in all the buildings in Connecticut. It's just increasing inspections from 18 months to 12 months. Why it's in the bill, I don't know. Is it a terrible idea to increase that inspection frequency? No. But that's not what we're here for. That's a fine topic. You could have a bill saying an act increasing the frequency of elevator inspections. I'd support that. In fact, I support the section, despite the cost. But my concern is that this bill has been brought to us as the end-all, beat-all solution to our housing crisis. And I've been asking all night. I've been standing here for going on 2 hours right now, and I've asked a lot of questions, and I've offered every opportunity I can for anyone to point out in any of the sections we've discussed or any section in this bill, the plan. I want to hear the plan. I want to hear how the housing shortage is going to be solved. We're going to lower rents and we're going to improve the economy. All I see is a lot of bureaucratic interference that is very likely to upset the nature of the communities that we live in. And I will tell you one other thing, Madam President, and that is the vast majority of towns in this state do not want this. They don't. They want to run their own ship. They want to decide for themselves what their communities look like. Please understand what we're talking about here. We're talking about people that actually live in the town, who get to elect their local elected officials, who get to determine what the town looks like, where they're going to put the next business, what the signs should look like on the street, whether or not we're going to put up an apartment building, whether we're going to disturb the nature of a quaint rural community, whether we're going to take a destination tourist spot like Mystic and screw it up by putting some sort of affordable housing building where it doesn't belong. That's what's happening here. And the people that represent those towns, they don't want it. I don't know why the majority thinks that the state of Connecticut can somehow decide in one slapped together 42-page bill about elevators, sweetheart deals for labor unions, that we're going to fix the housing crisis and lower rents and improve the economy, as was claimed. I'm going to keep listening, Madam President. I'm going to keep waiting to hear what the plan is. Show me anything, any inkling that there is something in this bill that's actually going to achieve any of those goals. I'll keep waiting. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you.
House Bill number 5002, an act concerning housing and the needs of homeless persons. An immediate roll call vote has been ordered in the Senate on House Bill number 5002 as amended. by House Schedules A and B. An immediate roll call vote in the Senate. We're now voting on the bill. This is not an amendment. This is the bill. House Bill number 5002, an act concerning housing and the needs of homeless persons. An immediate roll call vote in the Senate on House Bill 5002.
Machine is locked. Mr. Clerk, give us the tally.
House Bill 5002, total number voting 35, total voting yea 20, total voting nay 15, absent not voting 1.
Legislation passes.